You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Yes, hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. I'll be your host this week, Ali. Yes, I'm back from Dalvin's party last week. You can find me on X at FFDynastyGrill. And the band is back together tonight. I couldn't let you two steal the show again. So I'll bring in my main man, Mags, in the middle there. You can find on X at HotseatMags. Mags, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, mate. Fresh off recording with the Fantasy Wildcard Rewind crew. If you've not seen that yet, go check it out. It was a hell of a lot of fun, and just admiring our lovely new background over on the video format. If you're not watching on the video, today's the day. Not only do you get to see our three very handsome, very lovely faces, but you get to see a lovely new background as well. Just couldn't be happier, mate. How are you?
I am fantastic, mate. Yeah, really enjoyed your show last week. Enjoyed the rewind show. Love to hear Hannah's thoughts on how it went down with you three on Monday night. But yeah, I am doing brilliant, mate. And yeah, the banner is looking absolutely sick. So that is where we bring in the main man, Kev, the Capitano. You can find over on X at the Dynasty Mind. Kev, how are you doing tonight, mate?
Wow, the Capitano, that's a new one. I like it, that. Yeah, it's good. Look, the best three was on last night, the best three on tonight as well, so slight variation, but we've had an upgrade, haven't we, in the best three, so can't wait for tonight's show. Can't believe it's what we're looking at week 10, the reaction to last week's play, and we're so far into the season, it's going by so quick, but we're here to keep you rolling with a punch and keep you up to date on the key stuff you need to know to crack on with your season.
We certainly are, gents. Yeah, we obviously are going to be recapping week 10. We're obviously only a few weeks away from the key part of the season, the playoffs start hitting. So this is such a crucial time where you need to be making them moves to find out where you are in Dynasty. Are you going up? Are you going down? Don't just sit there in the middle. So yeah, with that, we will bring on the first topic tonight. Mags, what are you talking about tonight? I see you've got on here 2023 versus 2024 upward trends, and I'm intrigued to see what you got for us.
Yeah, so this week I'm going to chat a little about some upward trends, 2023 versus 2024, in a positive light, and then tune in next week. You might hear the exact opposite. And whenever you look at the difference between this year and last year, the main positive light is running backs are back, baby. It's finally happened. If we look at just plain scoring, which is what this game is all about at the end of the day, this time last year, 2023, there were 6 running backs who had scored over 150 points for your fantasy teams in PPR leagues. This year, we're all the way up to 9, and that's not even including guys like Devin Achane, who's awfully close, who's missed a little bit of time as well. It's just a running back resurgence this year. And it's especially important right now because we're in championship season. This is the time now where you have to really go for it. I spoke last week or 2 weeks ago about the importance of trying to get that bye week. And it looks like running backs are going to be the way to get there, to just consistently get points, to not slip up on easy games where you get a wide receiver maybe posting a dud week for you. There are 10, 12 running backs right now that are super safe, and not all of them are going to cost you a bomb. We might get to some of those later on some other topics. So I just wanted to put it out there saying the running backs are performing. I don't know if everyone has noticed, but it's definitely a championship move that I'm going out to make, is going out and buying running backs as much as possible. Feels a bit of a throwback to back in the day when if running backs were the most valued commodity. I don't know if everyone's fully caught up yet, so now's the time to go out, buy these solid running backs, get them in your team, make that push to get that bye week, which will hopefully win you a championship. So that's the biggest upward trend I've found so far in 2024. Boys, do you agree? Kev, what do you think? Do you agree with that upward trend of running backs? Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, I think just when I look back at the sort of the midway point of the season, reflecting on who's scoring well. I think the top 6 overall fantasy scorers, 3 were quarterbacks, 3 were running backs, which is completely not what we're planned for with how well guys like Henry, Saquon are doing at the position. I think you're absolutely right that you're going to need these hammers to be hitting when there's so many of them scoring as they are. If you've got like 2 that aren't scoring, you're at a big disadvantage. So you make great points. I think as well, like, think of it as a contender. You need these running backs, but also see it as an opportunity for these rebuilding sides. In my view, and I don't know if the market will catch up soon or if it has done, running backs' values have increased this season because of how the production's gone. It means you're going to be getting a better deal for these traditional cornerstone wide receiver pieces, which aren't performing as well. So I think as a contender, be aggressive. You might have to pay more than maybe you did last year, but you've also got to be receptive to the market and understand, actually, if this is what the price is, I need to pay that price in the pressure leagues. But also, reverse sort of working backwards. If you're a rebuilding side, you should be able to get a nice price on your wide receivers. And hopefully, if you're in that rebuilding stage, this will flip again next year in your favour.
Yeah, I absolutely love that advice, Kev. And I think the thing about wide receivers this year is the reflection is actually, for me, when you look at down quarterback play has been on the whole, has been pretty terrible this year, apart from the odd few. Obviously, Dak Prescott has now been ruled out for the rest of the season. And other than that stack of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and I looked today, and Jamar Chase in PPR formats is nearly 60 points ahead of the next closest wide receiver.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Justin Jefferson. It's not even close. And I don't think enough people are talking about how good Jamar Chase has been this year. I think perhaps because it's been so boom bust. But you mentioned that running backs are definitely doing much better this year. Prime examples, obviously, Bijan Robinson, who's just absolutely killing it with 5 weeks in a row now. Top 9 every single week, over 20 points every single week. And actually was a move that I was contemplating in the offseason of selling almost all of my Bijan Robinson shares, thinking that he's still got, RB1 value. Can I trade that for an elite wide receiver? And I'm glad I didn't make that move in the end, because the teams where I'm doing well, they're being driven by Bijan Robinson and how good that he's been. So, yeah, I think obviously the heading into last year and the year before, everybody wants these top wide receivers. You see startups, and it's just wide receiver or quarterback taken for the first 2 rounds in Superflex drafts. Nobody wants to take the first running back, do they? We even mentioned it on our show. So I think that will flip a little bit. I think you've now got people like Bijan that people will be more confident in. But yeah, as you mentioned, Kev, then people need to be aggressive. You need to be trading for the likes of the top running backs. You got Jonathan Taylor coming back, really looking good now. And you need to be flipping them young wide receivers that aren't performing. So yeah, there's definitely an opportunity, whether you're contending or whether you're going the opposite way and you want to get younger, want to get wide receivers in. So yeah, absolutely love that topic, Mags. And I can't wait to hear what you're going to say next week.
Ooh, probably a lot of nonsense, Ali, you know me.
Not at all, mate. Not at all.
Best one.
And we'll move on to topic number 2, which is actually talking about a Thursday night frenzy we had this week. It was absolutely mental. So over to you, Kev.
Yeah, TNF, Thursday night football, Thursday night frenzy. I mean, one of the best games of the season. Baltimore beating the Bengals 35-34. I think just from an overall perspective, it was a great game to watch and seeing the fantasy output on the back of it. But I think the thing that's really caught my eye on the back of that game is it produced the top 3 scorers in week 10. Yeah, Jamar Chase is 55.4 fantasy points in your normal leagues. Obviously, that can be a lot higher when you've got additional sort of tiers for receptions and stuff like that, first downs. Lamar Jackson, 32.9, Joe Burrow, 31.7. So top 3 scorers on the week. As well as that, those are running back 3 performance from Chase Brown, wide receiver 5 from Tylan Wallace, and tight end 2 and 3 from Mark Andrews and Tanner Hudson. So it was absolute goodness. So many matchups were complete by Thursday, the end of Thursday, with teams that had stacks and really put it to bed early on in the week. And it got me thinking about these guys that have had these massive explosive weeks. You tend to see the market overreact or push these assets up to places sometimes potentially not there shouldn't be, but also I want to get you guys' thoughts on just, are we overreacting, or is it actual fact that that Lamar Jackson is QB1 at the market, Joe Burrow is QB5 at the market, Jamar Chase now up to wide receiver 2 again in that top tier with Justin Jefferson again. So that's one question to think about. The second point is Chase Brown. We've got mentioned some love for the running backs in the first point. He's running back 18 at Keep Trade Cut. He's gone above guys like Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving, other youngsters who have really hit it off. So, two-part question. Those first three I mentioned, Jackson, Chase, and Burrow, are they ranked correctly? And also, Chase Brown, would you be having him with Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving on the back of these two top 4 running back performances in the last 2 weeks?
I think obviously going to the first part, the market reacts so quickly nowadays in terms of dynasty value. It is insane. We saw what the first couple of weeks of the season, Isiah Likely was up to like tight end 3 or 4 or something absolutely ridiculous, and done absolutely zilch since. But in terms of them rankings there, I have to agree, to be honest. I think Jamar Chase, what he's done this year and how far he is above all the other wide receivers, deserve to be back in my top tier of dynasty wide receiver. Lamar Jackson's been my quarterback 1 for a number of weeks now. I think that's the right way to go because of just how versatile he's been in being a pocket passer, but also his rushing abilities there as well. So I think their rankings are absolutely fine. I think Chase Brown, I can understand him seeing a rise just because of how dominant he has been in this really, really good, explosive offense with the Bengals that have been without T. Higgins for the past few weeks. So, hats off to what Burrow's been able to produce, even though he must be absolutely sick to death of the Ravens just beating him in, was it overtime before, and just, by a point. It's not great for him, but his fantasy output's been great. And Chase Brown, I wouldn't have him personally above Bucky Irving and Tyrone Tracy. I think those two are primed to take over their offenses. Obviously, Tyrone Tracy has already taken over his offense on the Giants, and I think that's one piece that will remain. I think they're looking for quarterback, offensive line, wide receivers. They've not got to worry about running back. And Bucky Irving, I think he's just going to take more and more of that running back share. We've seen Sean Tucker was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week and has had about 3 carries since, and that's about 3 weeks ago, which is bizarre, but it says a lot about what they think of Bucky Irving, and he had a great performance again this week. So I'd personally be having those two above him, but I can sort of understand if you were a contender, keep it rolling with Chase Brown because he looks great and the team obviously love him. So I guess it's not too outrageous, that ranking.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, mate. Like, just you can't really argue with any of those rankings, especially with how all those players are performing this year. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about Jamar Chase, and he's never quite lived up to that, wide receiver 2-3 ranking because he's never really finished there. Now he's finally putting the pieces together, staying healthy. Great to see, finally sort of living up to that huge potential. In the back of my mind, I'm still just like, when are the wheels going to fall off? Because we've seen this happen before with Jamar Chase, and the wheels tend to fall off with some kind of injury to either him or to Burrow, or he goes cold for some reason. So while it's very hard to argue wide receiver 2 overall, I don't think it's where we were a few years ago, where it was him and Justin Jefferson in a tier of their own, and then everybody else. I think some other people are a little bit closer to him, but he's absolutely crushing it. Lamar Jackson, he's getting close to being in a tier on his own, actually, the way he's been playing the last couple of years. He is absolutely crushing it. So he's got to be your quarterback 1 overall. Don't really, if you really wanted to push, you could put Jaden Daniels there, I suppose, but I think Lamar should be sitting atop that pile for sure. Chase Brown, I don't like the player Chase Brown, but he is performing well now that Zach Moss is out. I would take Tyrone Tracy in Dynasty. However, if I was sitting as a contender right now, I'm not making that deal. I'll ride with the hot hand, Chase Brown. If I'm someone sitting maybe somewhere in the middle and someone offers me Chase Brown for Tyrone Tracy, there's not a lot of good trades for someone in the middle, but that's one I would make. I think that's something more of a long-term deal that I would take, because I think whenever we've seen Zach Moss was in, Chase Brown wasn't all that. Zach Moss was kind of quelling him a little bit. So I'd take both those guys. I'd take Bucky as well over him. But for now, if you're contending, ride the hot hand and try and win some championships.
Sound advice, Mags. Kev, Jamar Chase wide receiver 2. Are you having any of that, or is that a little bit high for you?
I think it's very interesting because if we rewind a little bit, maybe 4 weeks ago when T. Higgins was playing, T. Higgins was out targeting, out producing from fantasy points and all the good stuff. So it is really interesting. I think based on this season, next season, Chase has got to be in that top tier because he's on fire and you're not betting against him. You see like players like CD Lamb who've got massive questions at QB this year. But I do think like if T comes back and he is of health, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chase dip a little bit, which is completely fine. He's absolutely on fire the last few weeks. But yeah, just don't be expecting 55 points a week.
Okay. I'll try not to then.
Sound advice.
Absolutely, and we'll try and give some sound advice with these next three. My next topic is budget league winners. So mentioned at the start of the show, we are heading into playoff time. So I think these are three guys that I think are really primed to help you out down the stretch. And the first one wasn't helping my team out of the weekend. Juwan Jennings against the Buccaneers. He was back from his injury. 11 targets, 7 catches for 93 yards. Wide receiver 20 in points per game on the season, which is impressive. But obviously he had that massive game with the 3 touchdowns. But he has been pretty banged up since. Some interesting stats I found today on the year. He's wide receiver 4 overall. I think that's about out of 94 qualifying wide receivers in yards per route run. Either 8 in fantasy points per route run. So he's really fulfilling that role left by Brandon Ayuk, who's obviously out for the season. And he's almost upgraded it because Brandon Ayuk was struggling in the first part of the season. That for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But Jennings has come in. Obviously, he signed a deal. Was it in the off season? And looking really, really good. So I thought I'll just go on DynastyDaddy.com and find the trade finder just to see some actual real trades that went down involving Jennings. I found some interesting ones. So Jennings for a 25 third. I would make that move every day. Jennings for Jermaine Burton a third. I think that's fine. And then there was Jennings for Jalen Polk straight up, which it can, if you're a contending team, absolutely fine with that as well. Second player, Darnell Mooney, who's actually up to the wide receiver 8 on the season, which is pretty unbelievable. First time this season that Darnell Mooney has been number 1 on the team in first target read at 38%. So he had a really good game this week. He's actually had more receiving yards than Drake London. I mean, Drake London's having an awesome year, but he's actually having better in terms of receiving yardage. He's actually 6th in the NFL in receiving yardage. Wow. He scored 5 touchdowns, which is tied 4th in the NFL. And he's actually the 7th most targeted wide receiver in the NFL this year. So a few trades for him. I've found one today that went down. Darnell Mooney straight up for a late 25 second. Again, I think that's good. Darnell Mooney for Jalen McMillan and a 25 third, which again, I'm absolutely fine with because McMillan has been stinking it up. And I've also found this one that I really like, which was Darnell Mooney plus David Njoku for and give up Luke McCaffrey and 2 25 seconds, which you'd hope at least one of them was late. So again, moves that I really like. And the third player is Calvin Ridley. So over the past 3 weeks, here are the list of wide receivers to score more points than Calvin Ridley. Jamar Chase, we've mentioned, CD Lamb, and that is it. So he is the wide receiver 3 in that time. He's the number one wide receiver in the NFL in target share since DeAndre Hopkins has been traded to the Kansas City Chiefs at 34%. He's second in the NFL in air yard share at 52.9%, which is incredible. He's second in receiving yardage at 200, and he's first in the NFL in first target read, which is 40.88%. So he's been hyper targeted, and the results are coming. So a couple of trades here. Calvin Ridley for, I don't know why he's in here, but Khalif Raymond and a 25 second and a 25 fourth. That's absolutely fine. Calvin Ridley for a 26 second. Again, if you're a contender, don't mind giving up a late second for that. But my favorite one was Calvin Ridley, and you've given up Jordan Addison, which I think is fine because he's been absolutely pants this year. So of the three, which is your favorite sort of player there to target for a contender?
Three really good options there, right? I think just going on just the last few weeks, man, I said a few weeks ago, Calvin Ridley looks awesome. Like, of the three there, like, just if it's just the eye test, Calvin Ridley is looking really, really nice. So I would go probably with him, I think, because Jennings just isn't as good of a player as Calvin Ridley, if we're going to be really candid about it. I think Calvin Ridley is the best player of the three, which is almost like a tiebreaker for me when it's so close. I'm like, just give me who I think is the best player there. I think it's Calvin Ridley, even though, I don't know if you guys seen it, I don't know who was commentating, but they were like, oh, and they've left Calvin Ridley, who's probably the fastest receiver in the NFL, free. It's like, what? I know he's quick, but that's a bit of a slight over-exaggeration on Ridley. But give me Calvin Ridley out of those three. But I'm delighted to have any of those three on. There's not a trade there that I would not do. They're all really, really nice. In fact, as soon as the show ends, Ali, I'm going out and I'm trying to buy some of those guys.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like Max said, there's a bit of something for everyone here. I think personally the best asset there is Darnell Mooney, but a couple of things, he's the most expensive out of the three, and he's got his bye week to come. So I think if you're really thinking about contender getting you by, little things like that, try and get a player like Calvin Ridley who had his bye week in week 5, who's you've not got to worry about, or Joanne Jennings, who's just coming back as well. So I'm probably going to agree with Max on this one. Calvin Ridley is the one that stands out as someone that's performed over the past few weeks with 2 really bad quarterbacks. So, yeah, it might be a little bit stinky and a little bit scary at times, but I think basing sort of price, availability, and definite volume, it's Ridley for me.
Yeah, I certainly think I agree. Obviously, depending on how big your sizes are of your teams, people like Jennings, you're not always looking to start them. But I think at the minute, Calvin Ridley's someone that you can't bench. So at a similar price, I think he's the guy that I would target as well.
Nice.
So we're going to move on to a game, and we're coming to you, Mags. And this is a game that we've played before, and I'm absolutely shitting it because I was not very good at this before. So, Mags, over to you.
Yeah, it's everybody's favorite game of, are they better than a kicker? It's the game where we compare the number 1 ranked kicker, at least according to Fantasy Pros, which is, shout out Kimani Fairburn. I can't know how I pronounce his first name. You know the guy. The guy from the Texans. He's currently the number 1 ranked kicker on Fantasy Pros. So we're going to go through 2 players from each position, and boys, you're going to tell me if you think they have scored more points than Fairburn. Starting at the quarterback position, let's start it off nice and easy. Derek Carr. Has Derek Carr scored more points than the number 1 kicker according to Fantasy Pros? Kev, will pitch it to you first and then across to Ali.
I'm going to say no.
Kev going with no. Ali?
You said easy, so I'm thinking Derek Carr has missed some time this year. So I'm going to agree and say no.
You are both correct. Excellent work. Derek Carr has not scored more points than Kimani Fairbairn. But can you tell me, has number 1 overall pick and touted generational talent Caleb Williams scored more points than a kicker this year? Ali, let's go to you first this time.
Well, I was doing an article and was speaking about Caleb Williams today, and I believe that he's had 2 decent games before their bye, and recently has been absolutely terrible. The fact they've only scored 27 points the last 3 games. So I'm going to say no.
No. Kev?
Give me no as well. Like, I'm not copying, but yeah, I think we might have some more words on Williams pretty soon.
I can tell you, Caleb Williams has scored 9 more points than Fairbairn, so he just made it. So there you go. You'd be as well as starting a kicker in your Superflex rather than Caleb Williams. Moving on to the running back position. Tell me, has this year's Cinderella story, at least for a while, Jordan Mason scored more points than a kicker? Let's go back to Kev for this one first.
I'm going to say, yeah, I think he had a fast start. Not much after week 5 or 6, but yeah, give me Mason.
Ali, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he was pretty consistent the first 6 weeks. The last couple have been, not great, but he must have done, surely.
Jordan Mason has not scored more points than the leading kicker, according to Fantasy Pros. But surely Najee Harris has, right? Right? Ali, what do you think?
The way you pitched that, I immediately thought, yes, surely he has. The way you pitched that, I'm not sure, but I'm going to go yes, surely.
He's getting in his head now, isn't he? I'll go no, so at least one of us is right.
Najee Harris is 3 points short of Keanu Fairbairn's total on the season. So again, not as good as a kicker. Crazy, right? These kickers are out there winning games for people. So let's go wide receiver position. Last couple of weeks have been great for this guy, but has the full season, Kev. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Ooh. That's close, that Mags. Or maybe it's not. I'm gonna go JSN. JSN.
Full disclosure, they're all pretty close. I made them all close on purpose. So you said JSN scored points. Ali, what do you think?
Now, he did score 40-odd points last week. So that, for a kicker, that's about 4 games worth of points, even on a good performance. So I'm gonna go kicker for the game, just so I get back level with Kev. Or maybe
Jackson Smith and Jigba is currently wide receiver 14, by the way, on the year. So of course he scored more points than the leading kicker. That big game last week did take him ahead, though, I have to say. So this is the one that's gonna have people in their seats. And Ali, I can't wait to ask you first. Lad McConkey, has he scored more points than a kicker?
You've done me dirty. No, I don't think he has. I don't think he's not had he's had a 2 touchdown game, but I don't think he's had a really big game. And I'm going to say no, and I'm going to hate this answer.
He's had a bye as well. He's had a bye. The pass volume's horrendous. They're not in shootouts. Give me the kicker.
Kicker wins on this one, unfortunately, but I believe in Lad McConkey. I think by the end of the year he'll have caught up for sure, and then onto the wasteland of tight ends. And by the way, remember, I'm trying to keep this close on purpose, so it tells you how bad tight end is when the first name is Trey McBride, Kev.
Oh my god.
It's tight end 3, isn't he?
Surely McBride. Surely. Come on, Trey.
Yeah. Let's go McBride. Hang on. He's not had a receiving touchdown. He's had a rushing touchdown.
I'm nervous now.
Let's go kicker.
You're going with a kicker. I can tell you that there is 0.6 points in it, and the winner goes to the kicker is better than Trey McBride on the season. Yeah. Trey McBride, by the way, currently tight end 4. So Fairburn would be tight end. Well, would he be tight end 4 in the year, or would he be even better than tight end 3, Travis Kelce? How good is this damn kicker? Ali, what do you think? Does he have more points than Travis Kelce?
If he does, wow. No, he's not. He can't. I only think that the past 2 or 3 weeks have saved Kelce. Otherwise, this would be complete embarrassment, and you'd have to rip that jersey down off your wall right now.
Yeah, I think, Max, you're not going to do your own team dirty. And plus, if I say Kelce, I can't lose, right? So yeah, let's go, Travis.
You guys have played the game well there. Of course, Travis Kelce has got a gigantic chasm of 3 points between Travis Kelce and Fairburn. I mean, that is just, absolutely crazy. Just so you know, Fairburn he'd be running back 24 on the year. He'd be wide receiver 17 on the year. He's got more points than Marvin Harrison Jr. It's absolutely crazy, these kickers out there. So yeah, wow. That brings us to the end of everyone's favorite game. See you guys next year for Are You Better Than a Kicker?
Wow, that's completely done me in. Well done, Kev, in winning the game. And I think what we need is a startup dynasty league where kickers can go in the super flex spot.
Agreed.
Because that would be interesting, starting a kicker over Trey McBride. There is some decisions to be made. Where would you draft these kickers? Interesting. We'll move on to another shocking turn of events. This guy who started the season okay, absolutely smashed it in the 2 games. One of them in London, had the bye, and has been missing ever since, Kev. So over to you for not Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams.
Oh, Caleb Williams. Yeah, obviously the name is that's been donned by me because I'm a dad and dad jokes and loose, really terrible wordage there. But I think he deserves talking about. Like, I've been close to calling him out a few times, but I've given him the benefit of the doubt because he's a rookie and the O-line and the OC and stuff. But we'll get onto it. Like, this week against New England, absolute dog shit. Like, QB 24 or something on the week. On the season, he's been a disaster. Like, he's so far down the list. It's he's getting by on his name at the moment. So I think real struggles for him. Someone that started 4-2, they're now 4-5, and when I look at this fixture list, it's incredible. Not only from how many games Bears are going to win, but how bad he's going to look over the next 8 games. He's got all 6 divisional games still to go. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, pretty good teams. He's got San Fran. He's got Seattle as well. Like, that is an absolute disgrace. This team could easily be 4-13 by the end of the season. They might not win another game. It might not look too dissimilar to the Panthers last season, the way they're going to finish it. So it's really interesting. Like, QB9 at Keep Trade Cut, he's not been affected by this poor season. The 2 good games he had, like I mentioned, one was against the Jags, the other was against the Panthers, 2 terrible teams this season. So what has he done in actual difficult situations? He's done nothing. He's actually struggled because if you think about, you can put a little bit on the O-line, you can put some of it on the OC. There's that clip of the O-line moves to the left and there's like no receivers on the left and it's got rushers on the right coming at him. It was a bad play, but some of it's got to come on to Caleb Williams as well. He's holding the ball too long. He's not making quick decisions. He's not being efficient. He's very much on a Trevor Lawrence trajectory where he got this gimme. He got this free get out of jail card for a few years because of Urban Meyer. And I think Caleb Williams is going down the same route, but I don't think he'll get 3 years in dynasty circles before he starts falling like Lawrence did. So, I just want to get you guys' thoughts on, obviously, Waldron's been fired. There's a new OC in town, Thomas Brown. QB9 at Keep Trade Cut, that seems a little bit spicy for me. I just want to see if you guys are in agreement and if Caleb Williams has been a failure so far, and if this is Trevor Lawrence again, how does that make you feel as Dynasty managers?
Yeah, it does almost feel like here we go again. Someone that we've touted as the best quarterback to come into the league since Trevor Lawrence. It's that sort of thing. Look at Trevor Lawrence over the past 3 seasons, quarterback 8 in year 2, but it's been mediocre. Sort of quarterback 15, quarterback 17, quarterback 19. That sort of area. Is this where Caleb Williams is going to be a better NFL quarterback than fantasy quarterback? Well, he's not even showing that at the minute. So yeah, that is interesting. The clip of him this week on the ground and being picked up by the opposition defender when his team are nowhere to be seen, not interested in him one bit. I do wonder how much of a diva this guy really is. And yeah, I just think obviously the offensive coordinator had to go. I mentioned that Shane Waldron is an absolute idiot. This past week, he took Rome Odunze off the field numerous times, and they kept playing 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. Why would you do that? It wasn't working. Rome Odunze has been almost in the metrics the best wide receiver in the past 4 or 5 weeks. You've got Keenan Allen, you've got DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. They need to be on the field all of the time because that is a nightmare to try and defend. It's not working with these 3 wide receivers. So hopefully the OC change brings about a positive change for this team. I think something was definitely needed to spark a revival because the way it looks with that schedule, it is incredibly daunting for the Bears, and it's like here we go again. So it is interesting. I thought I'd pitch it to you two because obviously we have been talking about rookie quarterbacks and how impressive they've been, and obviously you're not going to take Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels. That is a non-starter. But would you take Caleb Williams over Drake May or over Bo Nix right now in a startup? What order would you boys have those 3 quarterbacks in? Because I think it is actually really close.
That is close. I will stick to my original draft order, which would have been Caleb, Drake, and then Bo. But it is a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, it is the same because you have to factor in the market still. Like you have analysts in this space that they're just doing it off their values. They don't care about the market, and they get loads wrong because you have to factor in what people will pay to buy him, what they will pay to sell him. I think as it stands, that would be my order, but that would have been my preference, if that makes sense. I would rather have that as my order, but wait a little bit and take Bo Nix, take Drake May, take JJ McCarthy as well. Like, he's not played well. Give me them zeros and the rebuild, definitely. I think it's a great... Like, imagine this, you're a contender, you've got Caleb Williams at QB2. There's so many great pivots out there. So just be open to it. Don't just think I've got this youngster who could become Trevor Lawrence because, Caleb Williams, QB 26 in fantasy points per game this year.
Yeah, it's bad, isn't it? Let's not really forget as well, his last season in college wasn't very good. He did not have a good final season at USC. It was the year before that when he won the Heisman and he was the best college player people had seen since Trevor Lawrence. That was the main thing that got him drafted number 1 overall. And then we heard all the rumblings about what's this about him not wanting like Chicago to draft him. His dad was being a bit funny with things. All these rumblings. And then you put that together with, not being helped up off the floor by his teammates. Something's not right. Something's just not quite there. There was a lot of talk beforehand about, people saying he's a generational talent. Did not want to put that stamp on him to say he's a very good talent for sure. I still think he is a good player. I think the change up in the coaching staff will help him. just the kind of way that I play Dynasty, I am kind of like, oh, maybe this is a sneaky buy window for Caleb Williams. Go out and try and get a couple of shares of him just to see what you can do. You may as well use Trevor Lawrence, something like that, to try and go with Trevor Lawrence 2.0. You might as well try and use Trevor Lawrence as part of the deal, right? Yeah, he's not looking good. The Bears aren't looking good. But, I mean, I just how when you have all that talent there, coaching's got to be a massive part of it. So I'm not ready to dump all stock of Caleb Williams and move on. But yeah, Kev, I think you're right as well. If you're a contender, it looks like you might be able to win. I mean, just for the love of God, go get Jared Goff plus for Caleb Williams right now while you can. Just someone solid, someone good that you can put in as your QB2 and give yourself a chance, because you're not winning a championship with him. Not this year.
Baker Mayfield. That's the target.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I saw an interesting stat on Twitter. It was like Justin Fields' final 9 games for the Bears and their winning record and the points per game that he was scoring. The Bears combined that with Caleb Williams' first 9 games for the Bears, and it's like Fields just absolutely walks it. He's got winning record.
Yeah. In a worse situation.
In a worse situation, yeah. Certainly didn't have the receiving options. Offensive line is questionable, but it does certainly make you think how much of an upgrade was it that they got Caleb. But that's a conversation for another day. Gents, we're going to finish it off with another game. Well, this is an interesting one because we're talking about playoffs, the playoff push. I'm going to put you in a scenario, because this is always your scenario. I've put you in 4th place, so I've actually done you a dirty bit here because you boys are always going to be in first. But this is if you're chasing it. You're in the playoffs, or currently projected to be in the playoffs, but obviously you want that first round bye. So here's some trades, and I thought it'd be interesting to bring up some players that perhaps are struggling right now or won't help you win down the stretch. How much are you willing to go all in now with some of these players, perhaps get older and sacrifice a few years, but to win now? So I'll pick your mind. So the first one, couple of wide receivers. The first one, CeeDee Lamb, unfortunately. Yep, Dak Prescott is out for the rest of the season-ending surgery. It's going to be Cooper Rush or is it going to be Trey Lance for the foreseeable? Would you trade? So if you had CeeDee Lamb, would you trade him for my Nico Collins coming back from a hamstring injury and plus an early 25 second? So you'll be getting Nico Collins and an early 25 second. Would you trade away CeeDee Lamb to make that move?
Yes. Like, I don't think people realize how good Nico Collins is. I think Nico Collins is going to be right up there with CeeDee Lamb in terms of rankings by the end of the year. If he comes back and plays how well he played before the injury, he's going to be, if not in the same tier, right behind CeeDee Lamb. I know CeeDee Lamb was incredible last year, and that was kind of the year that we were waiting for him to have. But if I'm contending and I can get an early 2nd round pick to go on top of that, which looks like it's going to be a pretty good running back to bolster my contending team. Yeah, give me Nico Collins. I'll take the 3-4, maybe just 3-point hit on a weekly basis to get that extra running back in my room as well. Yeah, but I'm kind of like, I like winning championships, Ollie. I'll happily trade. What's the phrase? Rob Peter to pay Paul. I'll happily do that to win a championship.
Kev?
This is a great question because I'm thinking, winning chips, you make the move, you pivot to what can help you. Earlier 2nd round pick, as it stands, it's going to be really good, like wide receiver and running back class, so you can bolster 2 positions there. And then I think like Nico Collins, he's still got his bye. He's coming off a hamstring injury, which it's a high chance of re-injury. There is potential for it to go wrong for you, where you end up with a lesser bonus points per game if CD gets back to that level. But then obviously you've got CD with the Dak questions, and you saw the weekend with Lance and Rush, it was awful. Go Birds. give me the trade. Like, I think, you play to win. You can always turn that Nico into something else in the future. So it's more flexible with those two bits.
Yep, love it. So second one, Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, our friend at the Rewind will never do this trade in trading away his lad Marvin Harrison Jr. But obviously, he is wide receiver 13 this week. So he's been doing okay, but he's not been giving you weekly winning performances. Would you trade him for...
Not giving you kicker numbers.
Exactly. Would you trade him for AJ Brown, and you're also getting a mid 25 second mag?
Yes, I think so. Well, this one's trickier because I really think Marvin Harrison Jr. is... Maybe I wouldn't. No, actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'll keep Marvin Harrison Jr. because I really think he's a special player. And in the horizon, wide receiver 1 overall in Dynasty, I think he can still definitely get there. He is that good. Oh, I do love AJ Brown. I still think AJ Brown is not given like the respect that he deserves in terms of how good he is for your fantasy team. But I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is one of those actual like special elite talents and got so long left in the league where Brown is a little bit older. I know he's not ancient, but I think I would just keep Marvin Harrison Jr. But that's super close.
Go Birds, innit? Like, yeah. Being honest, like I would do AJ Brown straight up. So I'll take the 3 second, but that's because I'm a little bit lower on Marv than the rest of the market.
That's fair. Yep. I think obviously you're giving up a good 6, almost 7 years of Dynasty play. So I think it's a worthy trade and equal in a lot of the trade calculators. Not that we say use calculators because they are useless, but just to get you an idea for things like this. We'll move on to running back. So Breece Hall, who's been struggling of late, running back 18 on the season in points per game. Would you give him up for because I'm a middling team or I'm well out of it, my returning Christian McCaffrey, who looked okay this week, and you get an early 25 seconds. So you have to give up Breece Hall, but you get McCaffrey back and an early 25 second. Kev?
Give me CMC. He's back.
This is super close as well, right? But I do like to roll the dice. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey, when he's fit and healthy, is the like elite fantasy player. Like it's him number 1 by far. So I think Christian McCaffrey plus that early second where you can again bolster your roster with a running back. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey can win you a game on his own whenever he's playing at the top of his game. So yes, give me CMC and that second for Breece Hall.
And Matt's going to be in my DMs because I rinsed him about 4 or 6 weeks ago for making this move, and I've made the move. So bring it on, Matt.
Bring it on, Matt, and bring on the next trade, the next running back trade. So you've currently got Jonathan Brooks. Obviously, thought was you were going to have him mid-season. Not worked out like that. Hopefully, we do see him very soon. Would you trade him straight up for the returning Isiah Pacheco, who's now been designated to return from IR? So, Kev?
I mean, we know Max is going to pick right, I think.
Yep.
Maybe not. It's so hard because Jonathan Brooks has given you nothing. Pacheco will give you nothing. When are they both going to come back as well? Because I think it's not a given the comeback straight away, like this week, for example. Give me Pacheco, I think.
Yeah.
This is interesting because Kareem Hunt has looked spectacular. Like, if you guys have been watching, Kareem Hunt looks unstoppable at times. Like, he looks like the old Kareem Hunt. And then the other side, through some kind of witchcraft, Chuba Hubbard looks really good as well. I don't know what he's been eating, but look out for some kind of PED test coming his way, because that guy looks unbelievable at the minute. Jonathan Brooks is a really, really good talent. He was the number 1 running back in that class last year, by far, even with the injury. So I think Jonathan Brooks is definitely the better prospect, and I think Isiah Pacheco has the tougher backfield to actually win it over. I'm going to go against I'll take Jonathan Brooks here, which is unexpected. But I think Brooks is a better prospect, better draft capital, better player, and has a better chance, even though Hubbard's been doing so well. I think Brooks is a much better player than Hubbard. Or is this new Kareem Hunt? I'm not sure how much better Pacheco actually is than him.
Wow. I'm speechless. I think we need to just end the show there.
Wow. But... Feels like when Bret Hart got done over in WWF, doesn't it? Toronto Screwjob.
Wow, the Kansas City Screwjob. Anyway, move on to the final trade of the night. So this is for quarterback. So you've currently got CJ Stroud. Unbelievably, he's in the 20s in terms of points per game. Really, really disappointing. And you want to trade for my Joe Burrow. And I'm eyeing up for CJ Stroud for future years. But I've asked you to give me your 25 first on top. So you're trading for Burrow, but you're giving me CJ Stroud and your 25, but obviously going to be projected late. Would you do that deal, Mags?
I mean, can we just harken back to whenever we told you to sell CJ Stroud when he was quarterback 1, the number 1 overall player on Keep Trade Cut? Like, that is just shows you how quickly things can change with the market, where now you have to put a first on top of him to get Joe Burrow. I'll keep CJ Stroud in this case, though, because I still think that long-term CJ is really, really good. He's starting to get his weapons back as well. I know Diggs is still injured, but Nico Collins coming back is going to be huge for him. But if it's my first, I suppose it will be a late first. Yeah. No, I'll still keep CJ. Just, though. These are great. Ali, you've done a fantastic job putting these together. They're all super close.
Thank you. Hope you were going to say that.
I'm not going to say that, but you're doing all right. Honestly, I'd love to keep the WWE theme going and say, give me Joe Burrow, a.k.a. Cody Rhodes, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to begrudgingly keep CJ Stroud. I think first-round picks, I think if it was a deal in a solo to spend your first, I think that's fine, some sort of a deal, but adding a 1 on to something to get another asset that's potentially got the same range of outcomes, it just feels slightly too much for me. It kind of feels like a waste of a really, really nice asset you've got there. So sorry, Cody Rhodes, but I'll stick with that bum CJ Stroud.
Yeah, no, I thought that was an interesting one, considering Joe Burrow's put up 30-plus performances 3 weeks in a row. CJ Stroud has been terrible, but he's getting Nico Collins back. We're hoping for no re-injury, because I've got a ton of Nico and absolutely need him in the next few weeks. So with that brings us to the end of tonight's show, where we have reviewed Week 10's action. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow and subscribe on X and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty. And join us for our show every single Tuesday. Thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.
When you have the wild card, you have the power to change the game.